I know. My friends insisted that I made the wrong choice and that Google Home was the better overall product. I pushed back, saying I was mostly concerned with the smart home features. Based on the reviews I'd read, Amazon Echo seemed to be the better way to go. But as my friends pointed out, even the articles that are a year old are about a year out of date with the way updates are rolled out. But whatever, I was happy with the gift I bought myself. I just moved into my first split-level house and spent a few weeks doing the usual settling in, getting unpacked, setting up my TV, and installing my smart home crap I'd bought. The upstairs-downstairs Echo pair was the last addition because I had such a hard time deciding which way to go. But with my decision made, all of my uncertainty faded into distant memory. As soon as I unboxed them, I got them set up, downloaded the app, and began pairing all my smart home devices. I began playing with routines, creating my own voice profile, testing the intercom feature between the two units, and generally just playing with my new toys. It was almost midnight before I finally laid down and fell asleep, expectantly awaiting the chirp of my 6:15 a.m. wake-up routine consisting of an alarm followed by traffic and the weather. I woke up in the middle of the night to Alexa reciting the news from the downstairs unit. The volume was turned all the way up, just as I'd received it, and I realized what a mistake it was not to have adjusted the setting. The clock said it was 3:30 a.m. Did I set the wrong time zone, or did the time zones not sync? That doesn't make any sense. Still groggy, I headed back up to bed, dismissing it as a fluke. I woke up at the expected time, got ready, and went to work. Intermittently through that day, I'd check the cameras and thermostat, not really expecting anything, but doing so for the sheer novelty of it. As expected, everything appeared to be in order. That night, I went through the same routine. Yet again, the downstairs unit chirped at max volume and began reciting the news. This time, however, it was 2 a.m. I was irritated, but told her to stop and reset the volume once more before falling back asleep. The following night it happened again. Again, the volume was at maximum, only this time it didn't occur a single time. It went off 3 times. The first time, I chalked it up as user error. Maybe I reset the volume on accident. The second time, I know I reset the volume. And after the third time, I unplugged the unit. I was irritable the next day, and it was clear to my co-workers. Most tried to ignore my attitude, but my buddy Dan wouldn't let me slide. "So, why are you acting like a dick today? Too many TPS reports?" He grinned. I frowned. "No, I haven't been sleeping well. You know how I moved into my new house? Well, I got a smart home system set up, and it's been glitching or something. It keeps waking me up in the middle of the night, as if it were being prompted. I called the helpline and they couldn't find any reason for the unit to be malfunctioning, but they asked me to send it in anyway." He nodded. "Did you try listening to the recordings to see what might be setting it off?" I looked at him confused. "Huh? What do you mean?" "It records recent conversations, like, if you wake it up, it will start recording. I don't know. Maybe you have an ice machine in your fridge or something that comes on and sets it off? It's not common, but it happens sometimes." I blushed, embarrassed that I missed that little detail in the setup manual, and excused myself. When I finally figured out how to replay recordings, my hands grew clammy, and my mouth went dry as all sorts of supernatural possibilities ran through my mind. The first several dozen recordings were me playing with the features and were clearly labeled. Then came the entry from the middle of the first night. "Text not available. Click to play recording." My finger hovered over the prompt for a moment before I summoned the courage to click it. At first, all I could hear were the fuzz and pops of the ambient noise and the deep thrum of the heater running. Then I made out something else that was indistinct at first, barely audible. I focused. "She can't do this. She can't do this. She can't do..." The recording stopped. My legs felt like jelly, and I had to sit before I pulled up the other entries labeled "Text not available. Click to play recording." There were a lot of them. Most of them came during the day. Some came at night, but hadn't woken me. Most were the same. For a few moments, it was just ambient noise. Then the voice began. "I'll do it. They don't know. They can't. She did it. I'll show he..." End. Next recording. "I'll do it next time. Next time, she can't. I can't keep waiting. I'll do it. She keeps ignoring me. I'm right here, waiting." End. Next recording. "Tomorrow night. I can't wait. I gave her every chance to apologize. I can't wait. End. I took a few minutes to collect myself and recover from the shock before calling the police and pleading with them to search my house for an intruder. Thank God they did. They found an emaciated man who had contorted himself into the unused laundry chute across from the counter where I placed my downstairs unit. He was cradling a pair of garden shears and mumbling nonsense when they pulled him out. We still don't know why he was there, nor who he is. The previous owner of the house had no relation to him, and well, I'm not a woman, so I couldn't have been the intended victim. But that wouldn't have mattered much if he decided one night to unfurl from the darkness and make his way to my room. Two nights ago, I was home alone when Alexa laughed. I'd read about the software issue the devices had been having all over the world, so it wasn't that big of a shock. Thank God for that too, because I would have jumped out of my skin otherwise. Still, I was unsettled. It's creepy to hear laughter when you think you're alone. "Alexa, shut up," I instructed. The blue ring on top flashed, and the laughing stopped. So I went back to reading my book. 20 minutes later, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Alexa's blue ring illuminate, as if she'd received a command. I studied her for a few seconds and just shrugged it off. 30 seconds later, her light came on again. This time she said, "Okay, Peter, J.A. Hinkle's 5-piece stainless steel knife set is on its way. You should have it in a couple of days." "Oh, come on," I complained. I put my book down and grabbed my laptop. I navigated to Amazon and checked my order page. It was empty. Then I checked my account information in the Alexa device, wondering if Alexa had paid to someone else's account. It hadn't. Great, I thought. Free knives. Thanks, Pete, wherever you are. I went back to my reading. It probably wasn't the best subject matter to be consuming when I was already a little shaken. Far too many mushrooms and people peeling off their skin. Gross. As I reached the end of my chapter, Alexa laughed again. It sounded different than it had the first time. The first time it was mechanical and emotionless, just like her voice. This time it was lower, deeper, as if it had breath in it. The hairs on my arms stood on edge. Screw this, I thought, and got up and shut her off. As I crossed the room, her lights flashed. "Okay, Peter, 4 units of Clorox bleach, 121-ounce bottles, is on its way. You should have it in a couple of days." I stopped in my tracks and stared at the device. "This is stupid," I said to myself. "You're freaked out because of that stupid book and you're letting it make you superstitious. Don't be an idiot." So I turned around and checked the time. It was almost midnight. I needed to take a shower before bed. I sighed and headed to the bathroom. After a quick shower, I was toweling off and thinking about what I had to do at work the next day when Alexa started to talk again. I couldn't hear her very well through the bathroom door, but I recognized her voice. It didn't sound like she was reciting another order. It almost sounded like conversation. I cracked open the door and listened. The voice stopped. I could see her light reflecting off the wall. "Alexa," I called. "What are my active orders?" "You have no active orders, Valerie," she replied. "Is there something you'd like to get?" "No," I said. Her light went off. I watched TV in bed for a little while, hoping I'd get tired enough to fall asleep, but it wasn't working. I couldn't stop thinking about the stupid device. I wasn't going to shut it down though. I wasn't going to give in to my baseless fear. I'm an adult, damn it. During my 3rd Frasier rerun, I finally felt myself getting ready to sleep. I turned off the TV and closed my eyes. "Okay, Peter, Sunshades Depot 5x7 foot top is on its way. You should have it in a couple of days." My eyes snapped open. "Enough of this," I muttered, and bolted out of bed. When my feet hit the floor, Alexa began laughing again. It was loud this time, and just as deep as it had been the last time. She sounded like a large man cruelly laughing at an offensive joke. The blue light was so bright in my eyes as I reached for the plug. "Okay, Peter, Osborne International wire brush on..." I tore the plug from the outlet and Alexa went silent. The light went out. I stormed back into my room and slammed the door. I think I slept for about an hour. The next day, when I got home from work, I ran into my landlady. We're friendly with one another. She's only a few years older than me and we have drinks every so often. I invited her in, telling her I needed a few beers after what I dealt with the night before. "What happened?" Toshi inquired, sitting down at the kitchen table and cracking open a beer I'd given her. "You know that Amazon Alexa thing?" I asked, pointing in his direction. "Oh yeah," she replied. "My sister has one. Did you hear about how some people are reporting that it laughs?" "That's what mine does," I exclaimed. "No way," Toshi said, laughing. "That must have scared the hell out of you." Maybe," I admitted. "It feels silly being scared of something like that." "No way," she insisted, and took a swig of her beer. "I would have thrown it out the window." I laughed. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it, especially with the other things she said. Toshi's eyebrows perks up. "Other things? Like what?" "Oh, nothing as creepy as the laugh," I replied. "It was just announcing orders from someone else's account. I think wires got crossed somewhere." "Wow, that's crazy," Toshi said. "Do you know whose account?" "Some guy named Peter. He was ordering knives and brushes and stuff." Toshi paused mid-drink. She looked at me with her smile slipping from her face. "Peter?" she repeated. "Yeah. Why? Do you know him?" Toshi stood up. The expression on her face was the polar opposite of what it had been a few seconds ago. She looked frightened. "Tosh, what's going on?" "Well, before you moved in, I rented this apartment to a guy named Peter." "Yeah, and?" She stared into my eyes, almost like she didn't want to say. "Tosh, well, he killed himself 6 months before you signed your lease here." My blood went cold. "He killed himself here? In this apartment?" Toshi nodded. "Why? What happened? Was he depressed?" She shook her head. "No. Worse." "Tell me, Tosh." She paused and took a deep breath. I glared at her intensely. "He killed himself when the police found his pregnant girlfriend's body in the swamp on the other side of town. She'd been stabbed to death and wrapped in tarp. Later on, the investigation showed he drained all of her blood in the bathtub and tried to clean it up with bleach." I felt myself getting dizzy. "Tarp?" I parroted. "Bleach?" Toshi nodded and stared at the floor. I can't stay here," I whispered. My landlady didn't say anything. We stood in shocked silence for a minute or two. Toshi went to the fridge and got another beer. She popped the top and took a drink, then opened her mouth, as if she were about to speak. Before she could, though, a hideous, ear-splitting laugh exploded through the apartment. It was Alexa, and she was still unplugged. Burnt out, stressed, sleep-deprived. My eyes blinked heavily at the laptop. Fingers pecked away at the keys. My phone blinked another bedtime notification. Jeez. Was it already past midnight? Again? I checked my calendar. 6 showings tomorrow. Definite coffee run before the first. I finished my report and blew a quick kiss at the photo of my late wife. "Another day, another dollar," I said to her. "Good night, honey." I closed the door to my office and went through the mundane bedtime routine. My thoughts ran through the schedule for tomorrow. Another showing with the Johnsons, a picky, retired couple from southern Florida. Then there were the bros, hoping to rent out for extra cash. Danielle, the woman who couldn't seem to catch a break, outbid at the last 3 houses, kind nonetheless. She had offered me lunch for my efforts, declined naturally. I wasn't ready to jump back into the game. Still, it was an improvement over Carol's, who had cussed me out upon being outbid. Not my problem. Time for bed. I slipped beneath the covers, alarm set. "Lights off, Alexa," I said. Nothing happened. "Alexa, lights off." I watched the blue ring light up, but no action took place. "Alexa," I said. "What can I help you with?" the robotic voice chirped. "Turn the lights off." The ring lit up. I cannot do that. I scoffed at the reply, irritated that sleep was now delayed. Why not? I asked. Silence. Alexa, why can't you turn off the lights? Because someone is watching you. My heart skipped a beat. What the? What? Alexa, repeat. Someone is watching you. Covers thrown off, feet moving, door opened, door closed, windows checked, empty. I turned back to the device on my dresser. Just a glitch, I told myself. Your brain is addled from staring at the screen all day. And yet, Alexa, how is someone watching me? The fields have eyes and the woods have ears. Quote by Geoffrey Chaucer in The Knight's Tale. The fuck did that mean? Fields have eyes? Oh shit. Alexa, is there a camera in my house? The blue ring lit up. No, there are multiple cameras in your house. Her words stung. My throat suddenly itched, dry as sandpaper. I opened the door to my room and marched down the hall to the kitchen, hair raised, hands clammy. Sleep deprivation, I told myself. Filling a glass of water, I walked to the edge of the room and chugged, then choked. My office door was open. Alexa, the kitchen unit lit up. Is there someone in my house? Stranger in the House, sung by Ronnie Millsap, Alexa said. My head whipped to the bedroom hallway. There was a figure standing in my bedroom door, not even 10 feet away. What do you want? I said. My voice was scratchy, scared. The figure shifted. A metallic gleam glanced off the silhouette. I threw my empty glass and leapt right. It shattered against the wall. The figure flinched. The gunshot cracked the night and my cabinets. My eardrums rattled. I ran towards the front door. My hands fumbled with the lock. Deadbolt undone. The blood splattered against the glassed wood. My blood on my door. Pain radiated from my arm. Alexa, lights off, I screamed. The house plunged into darkness. I hit the floor and rolled away as the bullet pierced the front door. You're okay. I crawled through the dining room. Warm blood dripped down my arm. I wanted to cry or scream. Both options were acceptable. Focus. Weapon. You need a weapon. My thoughts were cut off by frantic footsteps dashing down the hallway. They paused on the other side of the dining room table. I fought to keep my breath in check. The intruder flipped the light switches, attempting to turn the lights back on. Nothing happened. Something was wrong, but I was thankful for it. I peered over the edge of the table. In the darkness, I could still see the intruder's silhouette. I know you're still here. Come out. The intruder stomped her feet. Shock swept over me. A stone settled in my throat. My heart plummeted. I recognized that voice. Could I be mistaken? No, it's definitely her. I softly grabbed one of the plate chargers off the table and flung it at her. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to use my dominant hand, and the plastic piece thudded against the wall. Shit! A bullet shot in my direction. I threw 2 more. The last one made impact. Ah! She screeched. I charged the assailant and tackled her. We grappled on the floor. I managed to knock the gun free and received a punch in my shoulder. I wailed in pain and broke free. I crawled down the hallway. I could hear her patting on the floor, looking for the gun. Alexa, help! Suddenly, the lights flashed back on, illuminating Danielle in white light. She sported a busted lip from our tussle. Why did you deny me? She said, her eyes darting between me and the floor, searching for the gun. My eyes scanned the hardwood in panic. We spotted it at the same time. It had slid into the dining room. Daniela ran to it as the chandelier light suddenly shined brighter. My eyes widened in shock. I looked away and covered my head with my good arm. The lights burst. Shards of glass rained in a hailstorm. Danielle screamed in terror and fell down, clutching her face and neck. I was further away and smaller pieces slit my arm. I stared at Danielle, lying in a heap, sobbing. I breathed out, praying she remained there. Alexa, call 911, I said. Police are already on their way, she responded. I closed my eyes, holding my back sobs. Keep it together, man. Keep it together. I managed a heavy sigh and dragged myself to my feet, clutching my wounded arm. Why wouldn't you go out with me? Danielle whimpered, looking up at me. Her face was completely lacerated. Red rivulets converged into a single stream on her chin. Blood leaked out of her fingertips, wrapped around her throat protectively. You're just like the others. She spat, crimson flakes flying from her lips. I stared her straight in the eyes. What the fuck, Danielle? I snatched up the gun and slid back up against the wall, my injured arm resting in my lap, the other trained at the floor in front of her. I watched her sob on the floor of my dining room until the police arrived. I could only imagine the neighbors' thoughts when the sirens came wailing up my street at 1:30 a.m. Ambulance and police cars to boot. I was patched up, the story was told. Relief flooded through me at seeing her in the back seat of a police car. It turned out Danielle was an alias. The crazy bitch was wanted for murder in multiple states. She would flirt with men, and if they rejected her, she would stalk and kill them. She'd set up 3 separate cameras in my house. My rejection? Not going out to lunch with her last week. I was numb after the police had left, on autopilot as I cleaned the blood off my arm and changed clothes. I had almost been murdered for not going out to lunch with a client. I ran a hand through my hair. How the hell was I alive? I stared across the room at the black cylinder on my nightstand as I sat in bed. A small smile pulled at the corners of my mouth. "Alexa," I said. The blue ring lit up expectantly. "Good night." My bedroom lights winked out. The blue ring remained lit. The device responded. "Good night, honey."